Earlier today, I was reading a book to Rowie, my 6-year-old, about a kid named Danny who had superhero powers to make choices and decide how to respond to different moments and experiences in life. Should you just eat the pancakes and ask to get your favorite plate next time? Or should you scream until you get your way? The book asks. And then it's a choose your own adventure type experience. Depending on the choices you make for Danny, his day either gets better or worse. Now, while we are still working on pausing and making the right decisions in real life, I'm happy to report that Rowie does know what the better choices are for Danny. And as we read, I thought about how every moment of every day for every one of us is a choose your own adventure game with consequences large and small that change the way our stories evolve. The choices we make intentionally can fill our lives with blessings. And that is why the power of choice is so important, because it's the power to be purposeful, to be intentional, to be aware. This is a lesson we find throughout Judaism, and one that's of vital importance to the Reformed Jew, as we make informed choices on which meats vote enhance our spirituality, and therefore should be practiced. We in the Reform movement believe that while good actions are nice, living with intentionality and authenticity is even better. I believe this is the reason why so many liberal Jews have varied and complicated practices around Kashrut, or the Jewish dietary laws. In this week's Torah portion, Shmini, we read laws of Kashrut, and we're given dietary practices to follow that become expanded upon in our rabbinic tradition. And while many in traditional circles would classify the laws of Kashrut as hukim, meaning it's a mitzvah with no rational explanation that we must simply observe because we're told to, for me, I look to understand what meaning and intention may be being taught through this commandment. And I see a number of values to be uncovered, lots of lessons to be learned. And at the end of this parasha, I see we are told to sanctify ourselves and be holy, for God is holy. And I recognize that Kashrut is ultimately an opportunity for elevating our holiness through conscious choices. Rabbi Jeremy Gimbel writes, "What I love about Reform Judaism is that we are able to make informed choices. We learn our Torah, our history, and its context, and then we choose. Each of us decides the role Kashrut plays in our lives. For some of us, keeping kosher provides a powerful spiritual connection to the Jewish people and its history. And for others, Kashrut is an outdated and irrelevant system." Rabbi Gimbel continued, "For me, keeping kosher is a spiritual practice that gives an intention when I eat. At the same time, I recognize the gray area within those rules, which is why I do not eat pork or shellfish, but I will mix poultry and cheese without guilt," he wrote. This is the value of Kashrut in our modern world. It's another opportunity to consciously choose our own adventure and to choose to live with intentionality. And it can even go beyond the food itself. I remember years ago, having just moved to Houston, attending one of my first meetings at the Houston Rabbinic Association, when I chose not to eat the chicken that was served. And the modern Orthodox rabbi who was hosting us asked if I was a vegetarian. I explained that at that point in my life, I was willing to eat meat, but it had to be ethically kosher as well. And we discussed for a bit what that meant with words like free range and carbon footprint and workers' conditions. I explained that for me, how an animal is killed was only one small part of meat being kosher, that I wanted my meat to reflect kind treatment of animals, care for the environment, and good treatment of workers, all values taught in the Torah. And at one point, he laughed. "Are you saying that you, the new Reform rabbi, are more machmir than me?" Machmir meaning strict in observance. I too laughed. "Yep, guess I am. Your chicken's just not kosher enough for me." While my eating practices have continued to evolve and change, I've always held on to the belief that the practice of Kashrut is truly about making good choices, reflecting a life of holiness. And our Torah portion this week is therefore much less about the dietary restrictions and much more about how the choices we make can fill our life with meaning. So I have to ask, what choices are you making these days? How are you living with intentionality? Are you simply going through your days, filling them with whatever comes? Or are you making thoughtful choices about what you want your life to look like? I know we're stuck at home, but it will not last forever. What choices are you making now that will help build better patterns that last? Are you exercising, eating healthy, sleeping well, drinking lots of water? Are you challenging your mind, learning something new, cultivating something creative? Are you using your superpower of choice to live with intentionality, or are you simply going through the motions of your day without rhyme or reason? I believe our Torah portion this week is teaching us the importance of choosing to be mindful. In these strange days that can easily roll one into the next without thought, it's up to us to pause, to reflect, and to make intentional choices that continue to make life feel like an adventure. I hope in the coming week, you will let our Torah portion inspire you, not to throw away all the shrimp in your house, but to throw away mindless behaviors and to introduce more chosen and intentional behaviors and habits. And this way, I want us all to be machmir, to insist on living the life our soul would choose. Shabbat Shalom. We turn back to our prayer books now on page 13 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu